Instagram. I woke up the other day at about 3:30, and I was answering that the post had been put on before I went to bed, and then I woke up and there were like 250 things I had to go, and so I was doing it till like 5 in the morning, and then it just goes all day. And so, but really, I love it. I've never had an opportunity to have such in-depth understanding of where people are at, and because it's so radically different from when I was a young feminist. And in my day, if you would have said you have trauma, we would have punched you. Like that would have been just such an insult to our feminist ethos. We were strong, resilient women who were out to change the world. And so we put up this post, and what I put up after a lot of 2 posts and a discussion is I put up a post that said, basically what you see when you see a woman's naked body in public, when you see a woman's naked body, period, is very much what I described when I was in our last call. Am I on now? Okay, in our last call, sorry about that. Oh, hi everyone. I just did a whole long thing. The really important stuff I just talked about, and then the rest is we'll just chat, no joking. But what was I just talking about right now? The second. So I'm talking about my Bianca Sansori post, and then I had 2 posts, and then it was just a freaking, I've been in a sword fight for 2 days, but really good, powerful experience for me. And I feel like I'm learning a new generation and their views in terms of being women and young women. And one of the things that I'm very clear on is, Jordan Peterson put out this book, and it was the 12 something. And it was really just like, in my mind, it was like things a father would say to a son, because in a sense, it was a fatherless generation. And so it was a holding of boundaries and how to grow into manhood. And I swear that's how I feel on my Instagram, is that it's a generation without mothers, and these young women, they don't have etiquette. They don't have etiquette, and they don't know how to not sabotage their own freedom and power in terms of both developing a form of thought that will carry you through difficulties, and how to express in such a way that you aren't profoundly offensive. And so things start with a very entitled, snide tenor to them, which I've discovered is just the norm on the internet. And so I don't take it personally. I'm at the point where I don't take it personally. I just say, like, young lady, you are not to be commenting in my comments if you're going to be speaking to me like that. And then it's so sweet. They'll say, oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. And and what I did discover is, I am I don't know what it would be. I'm a gladiator feminist. I mean, I am from the old school and have spent, 30 years building up my weight to wield my sword. And, somebody comes in and disagrees with me, and I'm just, and then it's just like these dead bodies are in my Instagram. And really all you have to say is, something like, oh, it sounds like you care a lot. Oh, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? What are you thinking saying that? And they're like, oh, wow. And it's so easy to turn, is what I discover. And so there's these young women, and I assume they're young women. I mean, maybe they're older, but there is a feeling are missing a ballast, is what I'm sensing. And I always look for how to get out of suffering, causes of suffering, and help others get out of suffering. And and what I'm learning, and then this has a kind of rheostat that adjusts to whatever the environment is. And my people, in many ways, both my generation of feminists, my spiritual people, Vajrayana, my erotic people, my just we're just hardcore, period. We are just hardcore, ride until the wheels fall off kind of people. And this is not that generation. This is there is not a, they don't pride themselves on that. And so this Bianca Sansori post was so interesting because, you know, as I said, I think I was off volume when I said this. You know, I'm of the deep-seated belief, very much as I put in the writing, the last writing that I read, what you see when you see what we'll call orgasm, and I mean that orgasm in the big way, you know, Eros, not localized in the body, but connected to the body. What you see is a kind of, well, it's a very different way of looking at the world, and it anchors the attention in a way that it profoundly shifts the way that you see the world. And but it is a what my friend Jim Harriet calls, it's a prime number that bestows meaning rather than something that you can give meaning to. This is really, I think, a profound understanding. It changed my understanding of how to communicate it. Because what, in a sense, it's like emptiness itself, meaning what you see is what you are. And we assume, you know, sexuality and Eros and nakedness, all of these things are so corrupt or dangerous or dirty or profane. There was a lot of people describing sexuality in a profane way. If you engage in sexuality, necessarily you're, I like this one, bimbo, or you engage in greed, and you know, Bianca was only doing it for these reasons. Now that's what I boiled down, because the reasons that people assume. Now you remember, in my mind, all people are, when everything they wrote on in my comments, and there were, I don't know, 250, 300 comments. In my mind, they were just self-reporting. That's what I put up in the post I put up. Like, a naked woman is a mirror that you can see yourself in clearly, and you can see all of the projections that you put into a system. And so it was really interesting how many people had the presumption. I would say 70%, 60 or 70. I mean, although I will say there were like 1,200 likes of people who didn't comment, so it's, you know, a skewed amount. But in terms of the comments, how many people assumed that she was a victim of coercion to determine that she would stand naked before the world. That was number one causation in people's minds, that Ye was coercing her with his mental illness, domination and sadism, and controlling her. And their evidence was, and this was even more interesting to me, was her awkwardness and discomfort, which to me, see, if you're from Eros, that woman is in a deep state of orgasm as it comes, as it gets. You know, when I introduce a demo, what I say is, this is going to look very different from what you expect. All you've seen to date is porn, you know, in this particular context. And she, you know, she is not going to move. This woman is not going to move. And really what you'll see is the absence of masks. And and what'll happen likely is that there will be a discomfort that arises because we aren't accustomed to being that intimate with nakedness. We're accustomed to being able to project on it, or for it to perform for us. So there's a deflection. Most of what we call sexual appearance in a woman is a deflection from intimacy. any kind of performative expression is a deflection from the intimacy. The pure, open, unmasked expression is the pure feminine. And so in my mind, that's what was so, I mean, I could not stop looking at her image. It was so compelling. It was mesmerizing how unmasked she was, how, like, this woman was not just naked, this woman was naked by orders of magnitude. But people said, oh, she didn't appear empowered. And then went on to say people who had presented as empowered, and the people who they described to me, to a person, were all affected. It was very like, you know, sort of like the performance of sexuality rather than the revealing of Eros. So that was number two. And and then the other presumption is that no woman would choose to do this on her own, which I thought was fascinating, that any woman, and this is, you know, woven into our culture, any woman who would choose to appear nakedly had to be coerced into it. And you know, I probably did about 100, what would you have to believe about women to believe this, you know? And then this is funny, just about this new generation. You do that, and they'll say, stop attacking me or I'll have to unfollow you. And it's like, oh, that's so interesting, the lack of resilience in this time. Because any kind of turning the mirror back is seen as attack, which is, you know, so interesting. I just was gathering information so I could tell on them when I got here. No, I'm joking. I love these girls. And so then so yeah, that's the presumption. Oh, and then if they did give her credit, which is very difficult to give to a woman, especially a naked woman, for having volition and agency. If they managed to give her credit, then she was only doing it because she was an attention whore. And she was only doing it for money and fame and the like. And it was just, it was so interesting that in probably 90% of the comments, 80 of the negative comments, the presumption was that she had no agency whatsoever. And I would say, but she knew him for 8 years prior. And she knew, I mean, I know who Kanye is. I don't even know Kanye. Or Ye. He said, call him Ye. His friends call him Ye, so I'm going to call him Ye. So, you know, I have a pretty good idea what I'd be up for if I were to be with Ye. And I haven't worked with him for 8 years, right? So this woman had what's called informed consent when she got into a relationship with him, and continues to give him informed consent. You know how I know? She's still with him. Because as far as I can tell, from her walking onto and off of the red carpet, she can walk in either direction, toward or away, which was baffling to these young women. And so there'll be a post coming up soon, and I'll talk about it, but about this idea that, you know, all of our ideas that are just, and I would say it's, you know, it's a snake eating its tail, because the lack of resilience in this culture has the radical prescription of the source of suffering being out there, which and with blame, which has the source of suffering be this label of trauma from abuse. And I can tell you that when I get pissed off about that, and I do, and people got pissed off at me that I got pissed off at their definition of abuse, it's that you're robbing people who have had actual abuse and actual experiences. You know, it's like, okay, look, if you want to consider Ye's glare abuse, okay, but there are people who live with actual violence in their lives, and do we really want to lower the bar that much that those people end up in the same category with these people? I don't know that you do. That's my experience. My suggestion would be, you know, the old Tibetan Buddhist suggestion, you know, rather than trying to cover the earth in leather, put on some leather shoes, develop some resilience, honey. So then, but I am very clear that, so the idea is, again and again and again, these young women would say, these things can only that I didn't understand the amount of abuse that exists in the world. I would just be like, sweetheart, I've been on the front lines of women's health for 30 years. I understand what is and what isn't. But if you view yourself as powerless, then everything looks like abuse, right? And then if you view yourself as powerless and everything is abuse and sex is a high intensity experience, then you can't have sex, which would give you the resilience that would give you the power to be able to withstand the glare from somebody and not call it abuse. And so it's just this sexual samsara again and again and again. And so what I'm trying to do is figure out how we break in. I am clear that it isn't with a machete. But how do we break in such a way as to cut these binds of suffering? But what I'm getting so far is to really suggest to these women that there's another way, and B, that you're seeing yourself. That's what I kept putting out there. And so, some women would say, my first thought was, this is cheesy and they're cheesy. But then I would think, oh, I'm actually kind of jealous. And then you get a little bit deeper. And so I think it's really, we're at a point of wanting to, I just made a determination this morning that after all of this mishigas with legal is over, I want to do a year-long training on how to think, because I realized, oh my goodness, like the mechanics of how to think are not existent at this juncture, as far as I can tell in the culture. What happens when you hear a snarl word? Because these young women come in and they're like, how stupid are you? And so how do you respond there? And how do you not lose your bearings? Because if you're going to decide that you want to be a bodhisattva, if you want to take the vow, then you're going to have to figure out how to stay clear no matter what somebody throws at you. And if you would just want to be a free human being, you're going to have to figure out how to do that. And so there's so many ways that people get thrown off without the capacity to deploy attention with a strong frequency, that they get knocked out. This is what I've noticed. So what I've noticed is I think what needs to happen is a lot of mothering. There's some way. I remember with my own mom, who's an awesome mom, and I remember that understanding, oh, there is a click into adulthood from girlhood that she didn't make, that all of the mothers of that time that I saw, there's a remaining in girlhood. There's an underlying hope that she'll be saved, that at some point someone will come and get her and save her from this. And that's fundamentally girlhood. And then all of the places that got stunted waiting for that experience that really could never happen, because nobody can save you because there's nothing to be saved from. That's just the punchline. But you don't learn that until you're an adult. And so I realized, oh, these young women in some ways have girls for mothers who don't know the rites of passage themselves, who don't know how to navigate that difficult terrain of what do you do when someone ghosts you? And how do you not take that personally? And what do you do with that part of you that's still reaching out and yearning for more? And what do you do with the embarrassment? And how do you not turn that embarrassment into blame? And how do you just navigate these elements of being a woman? And what do you do when you have conflicting desires, when your principles are conflicted with your yearnings? And this is what I'm trying to figure out, how to have those communications come through. So I say all of that because it's just been a blast for me. I have about 5 more posts I'm going to put up just to keep the conversation going. And so my Instagram friends, you are the joy of my life right now. Thank you. And thank you. I'm learning more in this time, probably than I have since I went to Mongolia. It's just a really dense time of seeing the new structures in the culture. So that being said, today we are going to talk about call, and I take requests. I'm like a wedding DJ, and Shani Marie, who I believe is a bodhisattva and will affect many people's lives. She's an articulate thinker, is how I would describe her. The way that she puts thought together is very elegant, and she's one of the few who walks the line between care and ferocity. It's usually a little bit too harsh for me, or sort of too watery. And so she's very, very like a felt tip pen that's a very thin tip, so the lines are very elegant. So she wrote something, and I had to tell her my opinion. And what she had written was along the lines of men choose women. And I said, oh, that's absolutely true if you live only in the world of appearances. And then I did my little brief take on call, which I forget, it's not self-evident to everybody. And it's the foundation of everything I believe. So that's the other thing, is if I believe three primary things. The first is that women are the deeper holon. So, an atom is a holon inside of a molecule. Without an atom, there is no molecule. It is the deeper element. And we so hate hierarchy in this freaking Marxist socialist time in history that we forget that all of nature operates in hierarchy. But for all of my socialist friends, this is what's called a holarchy. The holarchy has to do with what is deeper, is more fundamental and foundational, and then what grows around it. Okay, so I do believe that women are the deeper source, and as a result have more sway, more influence, and more genuine power. Our issue in our culture is that we define power, it's like calling, we define power by its imposter, and the imposter is force or authority. And that's not power, that's just force or authority. I mean, I could bludgeon people with a bat. That doesn't make me powerful. It might make me temporarily significant, and it might have it be that I can compel you to do things, but it doesn't make me in the least bit powerful. And the ability to amass huge sums of money, it has no correlation with power whatsoever. What power is the sustained capacity to uplift and raise things into their realized form. That's what power is. That's what power does. It operates like gravity. So it doesn't move, it moves everything around it. That's what true power is. So we've all been in the presence at one point. If you go to Broadway, it's really strong, of a character who who doesn't kind of move a bat and, what is it? Bob and weave, but moves everything around them. First of all, that is called, in my estimation, power. And that feeling, when you're the upliftment, when you feel that sense of contagious inspiration. You're in the presence of power when that happens. That sense that you could do or be anything in that presence. That's what power does. It supports the highest and deepest good in all, because it's in alignment with the flow of karma, we'll say. I've been watching this freaking amazing, and I'll have Sophia put the link in the whatever it is, comments or something. But it's this guy from the Monroe Institute, and so they do, I don't know, distance viewing or something. But I mean, this guy is for real. He's a physicist, and he's interviewing with Joe Rogan. I don't know how Joe Rogan interviews for 3 hours, but he's talking about he's talked for like an hour and 20 minutes. Everything he said has been mind-blowing. Really fundamentally what he's describing is the activation of all of the siddhis in Tibetan Buddhism, but he's just describing it as a physicist, which is fascinating hearing it from that perspective, because it actually has it sound a lot more real, and okay, he's talking about dream yoga. But then all of a sudden he just hits this point, and clear as day, it's like the podcast itself breaks open, and he just says, because the motivation of all the energies of the universe is to move from entropy to lack of entropy through the process of kindness or love. It's just so simple, It's like that PETA, I think I talked about this. There's a PETA ad that I saw that just changed my life. Not entirely, but I really just, but I mainly just eat fish. But it said, PETA, it was just like, don't eat this guy because it's wrong. And there's like a picture of a cow, and you're like, I do know that's wrong. That actually makes sense to me. So when he said this, it was just so true that all of the the veils fell away, all of the scales fell away. Anything that would have me doubt what the universe is up to and how you connect in with it. But I just want to mention, especially for the ladies on the call, that ferocity and wrath, genuine, pure forms, are kindness as well. We often have it that absenting ourselves from our own lives when it's time to, lay down some truth is kindness. No, that's just called disassociation or idiot compassion. You really, when it's time to be fierce, you be fierce. Really, so I would say compassion in that way is the pulse of the universe. Compassion is the pulse of the universe. And what is compassion? Compassion is arising according to the need of the time in order to what? Get out of suffering, causes of suffering, and help others get out of suffering. And so, for example, me arising as, realizing, oh shit, I have to arise as a mother figure for these young women. Me arising as a warrior gladiator is not working. It's actually hurting these girls. They aren't ready for this. And so to totally change the tone, oh no, but not the nurturing, benevolent mother. No, they need the, sort of stern mother that says, those are bad manners. That was cruel, young lady. Like, so then, okay, but to allow oneself to be adjusted into the face of compassion that can make the connection, that can begin to, inject wisdom so that we all move out of suffering. That is, really what moves the planet. Anyway, I just loved that little talk. So for number one, just know if you're listening to me so that I don't have to explain this in the comments all the time, because people say, you believe that women are superior. No, I just believe women are more powerful. And I don't believe that more powerful makes you superior. It's like saying, I believe that, see, now anything I say is going to be charged, but don't freak out, anyone, or you can freak out all you want. Talk to Sophia if you're freaking out. You can talk to me if you're not. You know, like a tiger is a more powerful animal than a Labrador. It's not that it is a better animal. I'd rather have a Labrador in my house than a tiger, but you're just talking about sheer power. It's the same way. Women are the completeness, and from within women come. The feminine is the completeness, and from within that is both masculine and feminine. In the same way that women, from within a woman, births both men and women. Good. So that's my number one belief. If you disagree, we're probably going to have some challenges from this point on. But we're just gonna take that. And then the second belief that I have is that there is nothing more holy than Eros. There's nothing more sacred. It is the sacred. It is the sacred. And that there's nothing you can do to defile the sacred. There are ways that you can use it that might not benefit your material life. That's up to you, or might alienate you from your access to awareness of it. But it is all present, always here, sacredness itself, yours to whatever extent you desire it. And it doesn't need special bells and whistles. And it is, I believe, the only way. This is my, I guess you're on my Zoom, my Instagram, YouTube, or whatever you're on. It is the only way that we move into the deepest depths of realization of not just understanding, not just wisdom of what we're here to do, but the execution of it. And in my mind, one of the greatest, we'll say, sins of spirituality is leaving ideals up in the sky without bringing them down into execution in everyday life. So, I mean, I can't tell you the number of people who communicate to me the way things should be, and they aren't doing anything. It's like, okay, are you feeding people? Okay. Are you talking to incarcerated people? Okay. Are you doing anything for the planet? No wonder you're so miserable. Because I think I've said this before, empathy without action, which is really what's called compassion, just leaves you drowning. And oh my God, there is so much pain on the planet. If you don't act it out, that's all you can experience. And I would say very simply, if I had to give one prescription for this period in time, it would be compassion in action. Compassion in action, period. I think if we just, I'm going to tell you that in order to get in action, and why we aren't in action is that we are a culture who has strangled itself of Eros. And Eros would be, there's a poem about the green juice that pushes open the bud. And that's sort of how I think of Eros. It is what moves things into the state of liberation, and then learning how to work with that in an elegant way gives you tremendous, genuine power, the capacity to uplift things into realizing into their natural state without you imposing on them your ideas. So all that being said, those are my two beliefs. Women hold the power, and the power that they hold is the only power that there is, and that is the power of Eros. And a whole series of things follow from that in terms of, a lot of small print, a lot of responsibility, a lot of side effects. You may notice that people have a lot of slings and arrows headed in your direction. Should you accept this mission? But it's a lot. It's a lot. And that's really, what we'll be unpacking. So the first piece to understand then is that you have this power. And, if you're in a body that was born with male organs and hormones and a nervous system, irrespective of how it shifts, you were given the capacity to be in perfect response to what is called call. So first and foremost, I'll just read this. I'll just read 2 pages of it. I have many, many pages, and I have an entire study that we did on it with a brilliant, brilliant neuroscientist, and then various ways to understand it. But I think until you understand call, I would sound like a kook saying women have inestimable power. Look, Nicole, lack of parity in payment, and there are women who are not permitted to speak in various countries or sing publicly, and what you don't understand is domestic violence. It's like, yeah, I understand that. In fact, that's why I'm saying it is incumbent upon you to claim your power today. At the bottom of all of my posts, I am writing, what did I say? Stand up, get free. I'm going to make it stand up, get free, claim the power. And because here's what you're seeing is you're seeing unanchored Eros running rampant in the culture without being anchored into bodies that have attention that can guide it. And this is what it looks like. That's the world that we're in, is the world of unclaimed women's power, period. And people get so mad. That sounds like victim blaming. First of all, I don't think you're victim, period. I mean, I don't think anybody who absolves themselves of the responsibility of holding power is a victim. That's just somebody who said, I don't want power. I don't think somebody who drives, drunk and runs into a wall is a victim. I mean, they're probably a victim to a certain extent, but it just means that they were drunk. It's like, no, you made a choice. All of these, this is the nature of reality. This is the hardcore nature. Right now I'm in the mother voice, just so you know, because apparently these lessons have not made it in, that your choices have consequences. This is we're in a period where people are being robbed of their consequences. So they're being robbed of the experience guru that would educate you from inside. Your own consequences are your teacher. And if you don't have those, then you don't understand really cause and effect, karma, how nature works. So that being said, so say you are bold and you admit you hold the power, or you're bold and you have the masculine form and you admit that you are in response to call. Both of these are very profound realizations in terms of a rite of passage, period. So say you're bold and you admit that. Then the next piece for women, and this one is the great mystery. And I'll tell you, it's not at all mysterious. People just don't like it. Everybody gets very confused when they hear things that they don't like. And so I say them for 20 years and it's still like, wow. But until you understand this, that how you relate to call within you is how the world, because women have both call and response and men have response. And I'm just going to, and you guys can work out the binary issues in between for yourself. Whatever you want, you can do. Okay. But so I send a signal and the world is in response to me. That's not saying it doesn't have its own agencies also, you know, there are streams of karma, but mostly what I'm seeing is the world in response to the signal that I'm giving. Okay? This is really like, if you get that, a lot of things begin to change. Now, you have to hear that in an impersonal way, in a quantumous way, that doesn't have self-loathing or other loathing, self-blame or other blame, because then what you'll hear is, if you're having a hard time, it's my fault. You're going to have to drop down to the practical practitioner level and say, I'm in a feedback loop with the universe, and within this, I don't like the result. How do I alter my call? That's all. And that you're just down there with the knobs and levers in order to work with it. The other really important thing, and this is one of the great misunderstandings about karma, is you can't judge your karma by your external results. You just can't. You can judge your karma by how happy you are, how stable your attention is, how much of your attention is available to contribute. That is your karma. You can be, you know, it's like I say this, but you're in Harlem and there are these people who you know are living with less than you, and they have the karma to continue to spread joy. They have better karma than the grumpy rich woman who's too rich to even go to Starbucks, who's on a diet. You understand? Your conditions in this place, they just don't matter, baby. No matter how much you want to point to them, they're irrelevant. So you can have really shitty conditions. And I would say most bodhisattvas do. They have terrible conditions because you enter into the domains of suffering because you've had your own suffering lifted in order to get out of suffering, the causes of suffering, and help others get out of suffering. So you enter into the samsaric war zones in order to bust people out of those zones. That was one of the choices I made. Okay, you know, sex is a ghetto. It just really is right now. And the most sacred thing on earth has fallen into the greatest state of disrepair. I have a constitution that can enter and face, you know, I'm a little bit, what is that? Like your eyes are bigger than your stomach. My ego is bigger than my capacity sometimes, but you know, I'll always survive. And I just said I can withstand any condition, and I will get in there, and I will change the course of how we understand sexuality on the planet. That was my vow to myself, and I'll die on that hill. But so whatever that is, you take your bodhisattva vow and then you just live by it. And oddly, the vow also gives you strength. So you're having to get that you're given this power. You have this power to influence everything around you. There's Mary Oliver, the Mary Oliver poem, the Mary Oliver line. What will you do with this one precious life? What will you do with it? And I would say, what would you do with this one precious power that you're given? And I will tell you, 99.99999999999% of all women are going to let this power fall into total disrepair, have it operate things around them unconsciously, wonder why the world looks like chaos and is willy-nilly. At best, we'll learn how to steer it in order to get attention, get romance, get a good job, get something. But the feminine spiritual path is to learn how to have this tremendous capacity for influence. tremendous. And then learn how to forego your own, it's not even happiness. I don't even know what fake happiness. Learn how to forego everything you're told will bring you happiness that doesn't, in order to learn to spend the time to learn how to steer this power, you know, that is constantly changing between, you know, peace, increase, power, wrath, and activity, we'll say. And you're just like, which one is it now? I don't know. So you're to learn how to steer it in whatever environment you're in. That's what you're agreeing to do. But here's the thing, I don't understand why anybody would not take it up immediately, because either you don't, and you're just at the mercy of this live wire signal that's just moved about by what people say, you know, like, I like you and it moves this way. I don't like you, it moves this way. You know, you're too loud, it moves this way. You want too much, it moves this way. Like, what are you doing? And then you just see all of reality just being jerked around by your influence, when instead you could learn how to steer it in such a way that's stable and clear no matter what at any point, and then has little, you know, special bells and whistles that you can build in, and that you have the capacity to bring upliftment to other human beings who are suffering. I mean, we have that, and I'm going to be straight. I mean, they even say this in Tibetan Buddhism, so I'm not being too wild here. You know, women have this capacity even more. So, like, we have that capacity. I do not understand why we wouldn't just chop, chop, get to work and use it, except for, you know, okay, so you have some cultural things that suggest that if you do, you'll be killed. But it's still no question. There's no question. I mean, what? There's no question. So that's my basic feeling about this. So I'm just going to start with a little reading that's a little bit less passionate, I think. And we'll just do 2 pages of reading. This is for my friend Shani Marie. And then anybody who has questions, also, you can send in questions. I love this. I govern the Athenians. My wife governs me. This is from Themistocles in 471 BC. Okay, so call is likely the strongest force on the planet. Women unleash and emanate its strength. The most accessible way to understand the force of a woman might be through the nexus of power in human physiology, psychology, motivation, growth, sexual energy. A woman turns the power on through call. To the extent that the human species has become the dominant life form, and to the degree that male desire for sexual access to women has significantly fueled the pursuit of power, we see male desire manifest as power achieved by fame, fortune, and military conquest. Looked at differently, the cliche that behind every great man is a great woman reveals that female power to light up others is a primary driver of innovation and progress throughout history. The female power to light up others is call. And so what I want to suggest is the reason we don't understand female power is we understand, like, the light bulb gives light, but the electricity that runs through it is what lights up the light bulb. The radiator gives heat, but the electricity that runs through it is what activates the heat. You can go on. So what women are, our power is the electricity that makes the world of appearances light up. Great. You have to know it indirectly in order to know female power. Call is hardwired into the basic biology of our species by evolution, and nature displays its power everywhere. In the animal world, call can provoke males of nearly every sexually reproducing species to fight. sometimes to death or exile over females. They've evolved physical features, cumbersome antlers in deer, bright and heavy plumage in birds, such as the peacock, that give them access to females while making them vulnerable to predators. In our near cousins, gorillas, the ovulation of a female, her call, sends a signal drawing the males to her across 200 miles. In Jane Goodall's Gombe chimps, the community was harmonious until the death of the dominant male who had mated with every eligible until the death of the dominant female who had mated with every eligible male. On her demise, the group split into two factions. One eventually annihilated the others. I've always wondered why no one looked more closely at this phenomenon. You understand, there was one female who was fucking everyone, and they were sane and connected. When she died, everyone started fucking everyone, and it went bonkers. Human female ovulation is more obscure than in other mammals, giving women a choice of when to be sexually active. But fertility in women is not completely hidden. Behaviors change as rising estrogen increases flirting and facial flushing, alters scent, and may even shift body shape. Research has found that lap dancers earned 81% more in tips when ovulating compared to when they were menstruating. Whether we are conscious of it or not, whether we want it or not, cyclic changes make women more attractive. The power of call is simply a fact of life. I just want to point out here that what I'm saying is that basic biological power can be isolated from the mere biology and used directly. If that makes sense. Does that make sense to everyone, what I'm saying? It can be abstracted. More than 75% of communication is nonverbal. Psychiatrist Thomas Lewis and his colleagues dubbed this capacity for sharing deeper emotional states beyond language a nervous system connection called limbic resonance. This is how call operates. It is perhaps the most powerful limbic signal of all. Estrous signaling is generally involuntary, but a woman can learn how to activate call at any time, at any age. So, you know, the experience where we see young women and they really have no idea how to operate their call, and just they're walking down the street and boom, 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 and they're, you know, the men are just, they're magnetized to them. Call is a kind of magnetism, and they can't stop it. And then, you know, women get a little older and you look away, unless it's a woman who's like Maria Callas, who was absolutely mesmerizing until the day she died, or Katharine Hepburn, or the story that I often tell of Marilyn Monroe, where she's walking down the street, nobody sees her, nobody's paying attention. Then she turns to the person and says, do you want me to see me be her? She activates something and people come swarming to her on the streets. That is call. That is the power we have. So it comes in two parts. The first is the power to magnetize and galvanize, which is great, except for the fact that you just have all of these people just sucking on your titty until you learn how to aim and direct. And how to, and this is a very advanced level for women, is how to give instruction, how to carry out your vision. You're granted vision and call. Women is granted vision and call. How do you then direct all of those who have answered your call, how to move in service to the vision you have? That's really, really advanced for women who don't like confrontation. So I think we'll stop there. Estrous signal. I'll just finish this because, yeah, we have time. If sex is equated to power, why would a subordinate and oppressed group so readily express that women hold more sexual power than men? Oh, I didn't give you this. In a 2021 survey study of 2,000 women, we discovered that those with consistent meditation practice had higher call regardless of age. We also found that most women agreed that women had more sexual power than men. It's interesting, right? So Camille, so we'll just leave it there. So yeah, we'll leave it there, and then we'll come back, and I have more, and I have this study if anybody wants to read it as well, and then we'll keep talking about call, because I feel like, okay, this is where we got to really get into it and really have a certain holding of one's call and realizing, it's also thrilling. Oh my God. When I remember I first learned about call, and I learned how to turn it on, turn it down, turn it on. That's all I knew. I did not have a rheostat. I had a light switch on it, and I remember being so excited. And I remember saying, Mom, I'm going to do it. And my mom would say, okay. And I would do it. And then these men would swarm over into my area. And my mom would say, oh my God, and we would have so much fun. And then you learn to get a little bit more nuanced, because you learn, one of women's biggest fears is, I don't want to be swarmed. I don't want that much attention. I'm scared to turn on. Men will catcall me. By the way, catcalling is a compliment. Just let it go. I'll have unwanted attention, and that's the part where you have to learn to work the rheostat of your call and how close in or how far. But all of that is totally available in the signal that you send. So I want to offer promise too, that it's probably the most fun thing you could ever do, just because it's fun to learn how to do your own biology. And then secondly, because you can walk into a room and know that just your presence can uplift everybody who's in the room. Just have the lights go up just a little bit brighter when you walked in. Okay, that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you. We'll take a couple of reflections from online. You can raise your virtual hand. We'll start with Rachel Regan.
Hi, Nick. What a great call. What a great talk. I personally loved your post on Bianca. It was incredible. And the thing that I loved the most was I could feel what you were talking about. I could feel in me both the signal and the response in me. I could feel both. And I really loved how you said in this talk, how you said, I often ask people what they're doing in the world. And I have asked myself that question and shied away from actually engaging. And I could feel it in that post. I could feel it. And I thought there were some comments that made me turn my head away. There were some comments and I thought, oh, that's my own relationship to my power and my engagement. And the thing that I found with that post and engaging with it was that I want nothing more. That's the thing that I want the most. That's to engage and to connect and to respond to both the signal that Bianca put out there and also feel that in me and feel my own signal and then respond. And what I found when I was doing it was even the awkward shying away and the feeling of, am I going to say the right thing? Am I going to, how am I going to express myself? Felt a million. I cannot describe how much better it felt than not saying anything.
That's a very strong erotic principle that you see. Your experienced guru showed you. In experience, you know this to be true. This is great. This is fantastic. Yeah. It was nice having you in there. It was pretty spicy.
Thank you.
We'll go to the land.
Hi. There's a moment when you were talking about call and this place where you kind of come in and get to know that part of yourself. And I had this feeling of, oh wow, you can use the energy to get to let whatever wants to be expressed, or you could use the energy to kind of manage outside of yourself and make sure. And I just felt this place in my heart where I'm like, oh wow, I feel so tired from doing that, and can I have the courage to let the vulnerability of my call and my expression, let what wants to come in. And I think that's what's so beautiful about what you've been talking about these past 10 days. It's just these women who have the courage to let their call and their passion be shown in such a way, and allow that to hit all people in different ways, whether it's positive or negative. And I think that courage in talking about it really sits with me and inspires me.
That is beautiful. And because of you, I'm gonna start whenever I start again. Saturday, I have a call tomorrow. Saturday, I'll do another talk, and because I want to talk about the fact that, you know, I always talk about women being so tired and wired, and the reason we're so tired and wired is we're not living off principle. We're day laborers, and we haven't made the investment to learn about how to work our call. Because if you work your call, you just lift people up with your vision, and through delight, they execute. And you're executing too. It's not like you're just, chilling out. Because executing is fun, though, not because you're working and micromanaging out here. And so you work on the front end of learning how to develop this whole call system, and then you let it fly, and then you get to create in that way, and that's in flow, and that's when it's the most fun. So that's a super great point. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll end with Christine from Instagram, who said, the moment you said Eros is sacred, there was a deep hum move through my body and a warmth that opened in my heart, honey warmth, and a deep sense of sitting with the truth.
Wow. Wait, we're just going to sit with that for a second. Thank you for bringing that into the room. Deeply felt.